you don't know me, I'm Rebecca Weitzel. I'm the wellness coordinator here. But I've also been a fitness industry and personal trainer for the last 20 years, which sort of dates me, doesn't it? Okay, so let's just get started. All right, so today, this whole month has been Heart Health Month. So we've been thinking about our hearts. Maybe we celebrated Valentine's Day. So I thought it'd be really interesting to just look up some statistics about our hearts. And I mean, our hearts are really pretty amazing. You guys realize how amazing your heart is. It does a lot for us. And it's just like beating along. We just do our thing. We don't really pay much attention. But get this. Our heart beats 100,000 times a day and 35 million times a year. That's a lot of work going on that we're not even really paying attention to. It circulates our 6 quarts of blood, so at any given moment we have about 6 quarts of blood 3 times every minute. So that's the equivalent of our blood traveling 12,000 miles a day. That's like going coast to coast 4 times in one day. That's what's going on in our bodies every single day. It pumps about 1 million barrels of blood in a lifetime. That's incredible. That's enough to fill more than 3 super tankers. That's a lot of blood. That's just you, one person. All right? And even at rest, I think I love this one the most. Your heart muscles work twice as hard as the leg of a person who's sprinting. Just sitting right now, your heart's going along, working. You're not even really paying attention. Of course, now you are, right? And is working really hard just to keep you alive. I think it's fascinating. So all that stuff your heart's doing, how much is it worth to you? If I said, I'll give you $10,000 for your heart, would you take it, Mike? You'd be leaving it in your will for, all your friends and family. Of course not. It's not worth $100,000. It's not worth $1 million. I mean, really, your heart is what's keeping you alive. It's very important. But yet, there's little things that we could be doing every day that would only require about 30 minutes of your time. So 30 minutes of your time is all this incredible organ is asking of you a day. And I think that's pretty amazing. So some of you may have seen this little video I'm going to show you, but I've seen it about 30 times and I love it every time. So it's only a few minutes, so I'm going to play it again. I'll see you later. That little thing I need to click? Can't see very well. I'm lined up. And hopefully I have it.
Hi, Dr. Mike Evans, and welcome to this visual lecture I'm calling 23 and a half hours. So I have a big interest in preventive medicine, which can mean a lot of things from, cancer screening to eating more fiber to having a good social network, and I mean that in the old sense of the word. Weighing less, drinking less, smoking less, controlling your blood pressure, cholesterol, and so on and so forth. So all of these things are incredibly important, and I wouldn't want you to minimize your efforts in any one category, but I want to know what comes first. What has the biggest impact? What has the biggest return on investment? What makes the biggest difference to your health? So I did my research, and I found an answer, at least for me, and it's tricky because, all these things are sort of overlapping. But I picked out this intervention, and because of its breadth, it worked for so many different health problems, and that's what I found so cool about it. So just to kind of walk you through a quick list. So this intervention in patients with knee arthritis who receive 1 hour of treatment 3 times a week reduced their rates of pain and disability by 47%. In older patients, it reduced progression to dementia and Alzheimer's by around 50%. For patients at high risk of diabetes and coupled with other lifestyle interventions, it reduced progression to frank diabetes by 58%. Postmenopausal women who had 4 hours a week of the treatment had a 41% reduction in the risk of hip fracture. It reduced anxiety by 48% in a big meta-analysis. Patients suffering from depression, 30% were relieved with low dose, and that bumped to 47% as we increased the dose. Following over 10,000 Harvard alumni for over 12 years, those that had the intervention had a 23% lower risk of death than those who didn't get the treatment. It's the number one treatment of fatigue, and of course, the kind of outcome of choice, my favorite outcome is quality of life, which is really all of the above, and really about making your life better. And this treatment has been shown over and over again to improve quality of life. So the question is, what's the medicine, and what is 23 and a half hours? So the medicine was exercise, mostly walking, so not triathlons. And let me just put it a different way. I think what I'm asking you to do is, if you think about your typical day, so there's 24 hours, and so you might spend most of your day, this varies obviously, but couch surfing, sitting at work, obviously sleeping. And what the evidence that I'm going to show you kind of tells me is the best thing you can do for your health is to spend half an hour being active, maybe an hour, and that if you can do that, you can realize all the benefits I've described in the previous slides. So let's just take a quick walk through some of the literature. So Stephen Blair, he's a professor at the Arnold School of Public Health at the University of South Carolina, and he looked at this in what's called the Aerobic Center Longitudinal Study, which followed over 50,000 men and women over time. And along the left side of this graph is something called attributable fractions, which is a kind of fancy word, but it's the estimate of the number of deaths in a population that would have been avoided if that specific risk factor had been erased. So for example, turning a smoker into a non-smoker, or a couch potato into a daily walker. And along the bottom is the typical risk factors. You can see the hypertension is incredibly important, and so on and so forth. But the one that kind of applied the most risk was this sort of mysterious CRF, which is cardiorespiratory fitness, which is really low fitness. So low fitness was the strongest predictor of death. And this is important, that most of the trials we see, to be honest, are funded by pharma or other companies because they've got a drug for hypertension or high cholesterol or diabetes, and we rarely see fitness thrown into the mix, and so it's nice to see a trial that's not so siloed. Blair's work is interesting. He also did another trial looking at obesity. What he found was, sort of two things. One is obesity and no exercise. That's a very bad combination, and that's where we saw many of the negative consequences of obesity from a health point of view. But if the obese person was active, even if they didn't have the weight loss, but were just active and obese, that was much, much better, and that the exercise ameliorated much of the negative consequences of obesity. So if exercise is a medicine, what's a dose? So when I think of dose, I think of how long, how often, and how intense. I'm going to give you a slightly mixed message, but essentially more activity is better. But I must say the rate of return seems to decline after 20 or 30 minutes a day. So if you're being active less than 150 minutes a week, or more if you're a kid, an hour a day if you're a kid, my flag goes up in the clinic. So my personal take on this is that the literature draws a very broad brush, and so we see big differences when somebody goes from not doing anything to doing something, and after that the return is more granular. So if we took the Nurses' Health Study, women who went from zero activity to just 1 hour a week reduced their heart disease rates by almost half. So you can break it down, so it can be 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes if you want to do 30 minutes of exercise, so it can be broken into 3. Higher intensity, it looks like it's equivalent to less time with lower intensity. But I think obviously the clinical pro is mostly thinking about your style and habits and your personal cues. So if you're only going to do it if it's pre-booked with friends, I have couples that take a half-hour walk every morning or evening to organize their life. A dog is a great walking coach. The data is showing 67% of dog walkers achieve 158 minutes a week just with the dog walking. And finally, of course, your commute, getting off stop early, taking the stairs, and so on and so forth. So thinking about that, I'm just going to walk you through some quick slices of the literature. And the first one comes from Japan. In the 90s, Japan required all employers to conduct annual health screens for their employees. And so a large gas company in Japan called Osaka used this to answer a great question. So if people's walk to work was longer, did that reduce their chance of serious health problems? So in this example, high blood pressure. And what they found is under 10-minute walk, no difference. 11 to 20-minute walk, 12% reduction in rates of high blood pressure or hypertension. And over 21-minute walk, a 29% decrease in rates of high blood pressure. So the authors calculated that for every increase of 10 minutes in your walk to work, there was a 12% reduction in the likelihood of getting high blood pressure. The second exhibit is looking at stents. So this is something we commonly do down medicine. So you can see on the left here, the artery is blocked. On the right, a vascular surgeon's gone in and put in a balloon, opened it up, and left a stent to keep it open, which makes great sense. So a German researcher named Rainer Hambrecht looked at this with about 100 cardiac patients. He got half the group to exercise, and by that I mean 20 minutes a day on an exercise bicycle, and then once weekly 60-minute aerobics class. And the other half got the high-tech stent and just their sort of normal activity. And after 1 year, 88% of the exercises were event-free compared to 70% of the people that got a stent. So both worked, but I find it sort of incredible that the low-tech made a bigger difference. And you have to remember that the stent just fixes one part of the heart. The next way to think about it is the reverse. So what I call sitting disease. We know that being sedentary is bad for your health, but a researcher named Leonard Veerman wanted to quantify this, and he did so down in Australia in a big study they did there. They found, compared with persons who watch no TV, those that spend a lifetime average of 6 hours a day watching TV can expect to live about 5 years left. I mean, that's incredible. But then I think, who watches 6 hours a day of TV? It turns out the average adult in the USA spends about 5 hours a day watching TV or screens. So I find this fascinating that we never think of the TV as something that's bad for our health, but clearly it's as powerful as many other risk factors for chronic disease. So I'm just going to leave you with, two quotes. So one is Jerry Garcia, the singer who was the lead singer for the Grateful Dead, and he said, somebody has to do something. It's incredibly pathetic that it has to be us. And I think that's true, that in some ways it has to be us. As Hippocrates said, walking is man's best medicine. And so I'm going to finish by asking you a question. And this may have some personal challenges for you. So, you might be very busy with work or kids or both, and you really may be in pain or have other priorities. But my question to you is, can you limit your sitting and sleeping to just 23 and a half hours a day? So something to think about. Thank you very much.
Well, flipping it like that, looking at can you limit your sitting and sleeping to 23 and a half hours, sure puts it in perspective, right? 30 minutes may seem like a lot if you've got a busy, jam-packed day, but if you think about it, you've got 23 and a half hours to do everything else. And all your heart's asking you to do is give it 30 minutes. And it doesn't even have to be 30 minutes all at once. It can be 30 minutes broken into 3 10-minute increments. So it can be done. I can't see. Okay. So, since we're not going to just sit around for this whole time, we're going to do a little exercise break. So, I need you to push your chairs back and stand up. You knew you were going to sit for 45 minutes in my lecture, right? All right. Yeah, so you can log a minute right here. All right, so we're going to do 20 squats. Does everybody know what a squat is? Yeah. A squat's one of the most important things you need to be able to do because it is how you pick things off the floor. It's how you keep your back safe when you pick up a box. So that's what we're going to do. And you're going to either get in front of your chair so you can pretend you're going to sit in it, or you're going to put an imaginary chair behind you and you're going to pretend to sit in it. So 20 squats, we're going to count together. Are you ready? Let's go. 1. I only hear me. 2, 3, good. 4, limit your range of motion if it's bothering your knees. 6, 7, you can make it harder if you want. 8, 10, keep going, we have half. Way to go. 13, 14, really stick your butt back. Don't be shy. 17, are we almost there? 18, come on. 19, can you jump on this one? Woo, yeah. Now don't you already feel better? Okay, so that was about a minute. You've logged in one of your 30 minutes today. Now you may have a seat if you want, or you can stay there. All right, so quiz from what you just watched. Which is worse, smoking or low fitness? Low fitness. Isn't that mind-boggling? Now that is not permission to smoke. We cannot work on quitting smoking if you smoke. But it's perspective. It puts it in perspective. We now know, because we have so much good research on smoking, and we know that that's not great for our health. But did we have any idea, did you have any idea before you heard that low fitness is even worse? That's pretty amazing because we all have the ability to do something about it. We all do. I don't care if you have a broken leg, I don't care if your back hurts, we all can do something. And that's what's amazing about exercise, is it's this medicine that we can all do, doesn't have to cost anything, and it can be adapted to our life. It can work for all of us. It's incredible. So the question is, are you fit? How do you know? Well, in Brazil, they did a really big study with thousands of people to determine a test that they could do that would be really quick and easy to determine if somebody who walks in the office is fit or not. And all it is sitting on the floor and standing back up. And they found that if you need a lot of help to sit down or stand up, you are more likely to die prematurely, significantly more likely to die prematurely of any cause than someone who can do this simple little thing. So I'll show you what it looks like. I'm not going to make you do it here, but you're all going to do it at home, right? So I'm going to have you so curious. So you're just going to kind of bring one foot behind you and see if you can sit. Now getting up's the harder one. So you're going to see if you can just get up and stand up. So if it takes one knee, like, oh, I can't quite do that, one knee, that's okay. If you need maybe a knee or maybe a hand, that's okay. For each knee or hand that touches the floor, you're going to give yourself a point, and points aren't great. But if you only get about 2 or 3 points, then you're doing pretty well. If you require both knees, both hands, support yourself here, and this is a really common, what you'll see when people get off the floor. That means that maybe there's some room to improve. To me, that's exciting. To me, that's like this, okay, great, I now have an opportunity to do something. And did you hear what he said about those who are sedentary and start doing something stand to gain so much more than those who are already active and add more. Now, if you're already active and you're adding more, that's great. He said, the more the better to a point. But, a lot of that is for then training to do something that you really want to do, or it's for weight loss, because we're talking about health, we're talking about fitness, we're not talking about weight loss. Exercise is good for you whether you lose the weight or not, and that's what I want you to leave here rethinking. In fact, I've done a lot of rethinking about weight, and in this year, I've asked my clients to not use weight as a goal. We're not weighing in. I'll do body fat sometimes, but I won't even have them look at the weight, especially for those who get caught up in the number. Do you get fixated on that number sometimes? And maybe you decided you're going to exercise for a little while, and you give it a good 2 or 3 weeks, and you don't lose any weight, and then you go, why bother? That happens. Just know that what you're doing is having significant positive impact inside, even if you're not losing the weight. I think that's amazing. All right, so you're all going to try that at home? Kids can do it like nothing, What is it about us? So exercise is the single best thing you can do to save your heart and your life. That's powerful, because that's within your control. All right, so this is always the hard part. You know this, right? How do we turn knowing it into doing it? Well, my strategy I'd like to suggest is, first you need to challenge your beliefs. We all have beliefs about different things, but a lot of us have very emotionally charged beliefs about exercise, and we need to challenge some of those, and I'll explain that in a minute. We need to find a powerful enough why, and then we need to find a creative how. All right, so how do we do that? A change in behavior starts with a change in beliefs. You really can't change what you do until you change what's going on up here. In life, you have an experience, then you have a thought that's associated with that experience. Then you decide, oh yeah, okay, that thought's valid, that's true. And then throughout your life, you just start collecting evidence about that. So you just reinforce that belief throughout your life. Unless you take the time and the conscious effort to pull that belief out and examine it, those beliefs are just going to kind of continue to dictate your behavior. So for example, I had an experience when I was 16. First time I went skiing, downhill skiing. My friends my best friend's going skiing all the time and I'm missing out on all this fun she's having. So I'm going to re-examine that. But we have beliefs about exercise in a similar way. These are some that I came up with, and then I want to see if you have any that I don't have on my list. First one, I don't have time. I put that on the top of the list because that's the one I hear and the one I've heard over the last 20 years over and over and over. Is I don't have time. Who has that belief? Who believes that's their reality, that they don't have time? It's such a common one. But again, we have 23 and a half hours for everything else. We're just needing to squeeze in 30 minutes a day, and we're not talking about going to the gym 30 minutes a day. We're talking about just getting out and walking, or just, instead of sitting at your desk, maybe setting some breaks where you walk for 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be, going crazy type of exercise to have the benefit. So, challenge that belief. Exercise is boring. Does anybody believe that? You just get on the treadmill day after day, I would agree, it is boring. So, challenging that belief. I think, for me, getting on a machine at the gym is very boring, but I have figured out a way to make it fun, for me anyway. I discovered a couple of machines where my head doesn't bob up and down too much, like the step mill. Do you know what the step mill is? Where you walk up the down escalator, and my head stays about in one place. So I can bring my Kindle or my iPad, and I can read. And because it's going for me, and I can't slow down when I get distracted, I can go and go and go. When I first started on the step mill, I would get bored and want to just scream after about 5 minutes. But now I can do an hour because I've got something to occupy my brain. So think of things that aren't boring. The only exercise that's going to work for you is the one that you kind of like. If you don't like running, don't pick running. I don't love running. So when my friends try to get me to train for a marathon, I say, no, train with me to hike a 14er, because that's what I like to do. I don't want to train to run because I don't enjoy it. So find something that you enjoy. Life's too hectic right now. Who has that one? You guys are asleep. Who has life is hectic? Maybe you guys don't have hectic lives, and that's awesome. But if your life is hectic and that's the reason you're using to not exercise, let me just challenge that. If your life is hectic, you need to exercise even more than ever. Because as we've seen, exercise helps lower stress. It helps you just deal. It helps give some place for those hormones that are building when you're stressed to go. Helps you process them. And it's going to help alleviate some of that feeling like your life is hectic. You can also incorporate things that you're already doing into your exercise and maybe make it less hectic. Well, what if you just don't like to exercise? Call it something else. Don't call it exercise. Call it dancing. I like to go dancing. Or when I have my clients meet me at the gym, we are there to train. Doesn't that have just a different tone to it? If you're there to train, you're there to train for something. There's a purpose, there's a reason. Maybe it's to train, I've got most of my clients committed to hiking again with me. I pick a 14er every year for them to try. Maybe it's just to train to do your job better here at Hilltop if it's a physically tasking job. Maybe it's to train for life. Maybe it's to train to get down on the floor with your kids and be able to play, or go to the park and run and throw the football. Maybe that's what you're training for. But try to redefine exercise for yourself and see if that can help you challenge your belief about that. I'm too old. Nobody in here. Nobody in here. But if your parents are saying they're too old, trust me, you are never too old. And there's more and more research. I just took a whole course on older adult fitness. And it's never too late to start. That's an amazing thing. And to see real benefits, increased bone density, lower cholesterol, increased strength so that we limit our risk of falling. So we're working really hard here at the Commons and the Fountains to try to get some of the older adults to buy into that. I'm too out of shape. Well, yeah, so that's why you're going to start exercising. But I understand this one, especially if you think that what you really want to try is maybe the Zumba class at Crossroads, or you want to do something like that. You're excited about the idea, but what keeps you back the barrier for you is that, well, but I'm just too out of shape and I'm going to look stupid. But I like Mark Twain's quote, which is, you'd worry less about what people thought of you if you knew how seldom they did. And that's really what's going on. If you were to join the gym, or you were to take a class, or you were to set a goal to run a 5K, and you're thinking, yeah, but I'm too out of shape, and there's going to be all these people there that are in better shape than me. They're not focused on you. They're focused on themselves and what they're doing. All you need to worry about is you, and it doesn't matter where you start. In fact, if you're out of shape, it's going to be so exciting for you to see the quick gains that you make. I'm always excited to have a beginner who starts weight training, because, oh my goodness, you can see the changes so fast in somebody who's never lifted weights before, and then they do it, and you can start seeing those muscles, and it's really exciting. Well, what about if you just think the cost doesn't outweigh the benefit? There's no results. So like I said with the scale, maybe that's what you're using to determine your outcome. That's what you're thinking is the benefit. But as we've seen, that's not your only benefit. There's a lot of other things going on. So I'd really encourage everybody, if you're not already, to do our annual health screening that Hilltop offers, pays for it for you. It's an amazing benefit, and that's another way to gauge whether or not some of the positive changes you're making is having some kind of impact. I know for myself, after we did the Beat the Sugar Boss, I try not to eat a lot of sweets, but I started looking at labels on things I didn't consider sweet, and cut some of that stuff out. And by the next time we did our blood draw, my triglycerides went way down, and that was the only change I made. I wouldn't have known that those changes that I made had such impact had I not done that test, because my weight's pretty much the same. So think of other ways where you can measure your outcomes that's maybe not associated with weight. Any others? Any other barriers, any other beliefs you may be holding that are holding you back? I covered them all. All right, exercise break. You knew one was coming because you're all just really quiet. So we're going to do 20 chair dips. I'll grab a chair. So you're just going to scoop off your chair, or scoop your chair out a little bit, but you're actually going to stay seated. Now, if you already know you're in really good shape, you can grab the chair here on the seat cushion, and you're going to drop your booty down toward the floor. Otherwise, all you need to do a chair dip is stay seated, and we all have arms on our chairs, and all you're going to do is, using your arms, push yourself up off the chair and straighten your elbows, all right? And then come back down. So you take your pick, which one you're going to do. The main important thing is to keep your elbows back and your chest lifted. How many are we doing? 20, let's go. 1, 2, good. 3, breathing. 4, 5, 6, 7, are you feeling it yet? 8, feel the backs of the arms, shoulders. How many? I stopped counting. 11, 14, 15, 16, 17. Do you feel those arms? 18, 19. Oh, yeah. Okay, so in 2 minutes, we've already worked all the muscles in our legs and our glutes, and we worked our triceps, our shoulders, some back, and even some chest. 2 minutes. You say it. We all have a chair at our desk. Now it has wheels. Maybe lock the wheels or go find a sturdy chair. Okay. We're going to get all these workers' comp claims. I was doing dips in my rolling chair, and Rebecca said I should. All right. Next step is to find a powerful why. The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche said, if you have a strong enough why, you can bear almost any how. And if you really think about that, that's true. If you have kids, you have somebody who's really important to you, maybe something happens, like let's say my son, when he first got his license in his car, I got a call that he was in an accident. Well, I had a really important line of things during the day that I had planned. Do you think I had to spend much time dropping everything I had to just get out there and be with my son? That was a powerful why for me to drop everything else that I thought was important that day to be there. That demonstrates the truth of what that statement says. And if we apply it to exercise, if you can find a powerful enough why, and it's going to be different for everybody, and maybe it's a couple, 3, 4, 5 different reasons for you, but that'll be your motivation. You got to find that powerful why that you're emotionally invested in to do it. Because I guarantee you, if it's just because Rebecca told me, that might last a week. Would it even last that long? It'll last the 1 minute where I make you do chair dips, and then you're done. No, you need to connect with something for you personally. So I've got a list of them, and then you can help me figure out if I've left some off the list. Maybe your why is to be fit enough to play with your kids. So, it was a beautiful weekend, wasn't it? On Saturday, Sunday. So Saturday, my 14-year-old and I, we went to the park and we threw the football and had a good time. And there were lots of parents and kids out in the park playing. But then I saw one mom who was sitting on the bench, who was obese and couldn't be out there interacting. And I just thought, maybe that would be a powerful why for her. If she knew, if she just started moving a little bit more, she could do some of this stuff with her kids. Maybe being a good example to your kids or your nieces or your nephews or your grandkids or anybody that maybe looks up to you. Maybe you haven't yet bought into the fact that this is you're worth taking care of, but you're worth the time. But maybe just considering that what you're doing is being mirrored by those who you care about might be enough of a why. How about just for the sheer fun of kicking genetics backside and beating the odds? So I have genetics on both sides, my mom and my dad, that are working against me constantly. I have diabetes on both sides, heart disease on both sides, colon cancer, strokes on both sides. I can't afford to mess around. Like I'm not one of these people who's going to get the great blood work and not do anything. I have to work really hard. And I almost get a little kick out of it every year when I have my screening at Hilltop. And it comes back good because I know that's all me. It's all the effort I'm putting into it. Just being able to join friends who go hiking and biking and skiing and do all that great stuff. Do you get invitations that you say no to because you feel like I couldn't keep up? Well, just think about that. If that's something that would add enjoyment to your life, that might be a powerful enough why for you. What about just living long enough to retire and travel the world? I have some clients, a lot of my clients are retired because I train in the morning, so I'm training people who aren't working. And I have one couple, the gentleman is now, he just turned 79, and they just got back from Ecuador, where they hiked up to 16,300 feet. And it was a series of hikes they actually did over a couple of weeks, hiking, dozens of miles each day or each week. And he's 79. Like that's what he's doing. Next month they're going to Panama. Contrast that with a story I heard just the other day where a gentleman had been saving, working really hard all his life. Saved, had a great retirement. He and his wife retired, and he died a few weeks later. So all that effort he put into his job and put into saving, he forgot one piece. That was his heart. That was his health. And so now, he's not able to enjoy all of that work he put into setting himself up to retire comfortably. What about something as simple as sitting comfortably in an airplane seat? That may be enough motivation for some people. Staying smart and mentally quick as you age. We have here at the Commons, little Audrey, still with it. She's 95. Do you know Roxanne? 95, I think. Yeah, still recognizes me every time I walk in. Hey, Rebecca calls me by name, even if it's been weeks since I've seen her. And she's still taking exercise classes every single day. And the amazing thing about exercise and your cognitive abilities is it's about the only thing they can conclusively say staves off dementia and cognitive decline. Exercise. Did you know exercise and your physical fitness has that much power over your cognitive abilities, that's amazing, even more than Sudoku. So don't be sitting there doing your, math. Get up and start moving more if you want to stay smart as you get older. What about increasing your energy and improving your sleep? It kind of seems counterintuitive, I gotta expend all this energy, I just don't have the energy. But I guarantee you start moving more, and it's this great cycle that you start for yourself. Sitting begets sitting. The more you sit, the more you want to sit. The more you move, the more your body finds its natural rhythm and wants to move. You were built to move. We are not built to sit. In fact, more and more research is coming out about the detriment aspects of sitting. Even just this posture is not good for us orthopedically. So Mike's going to invest in treadmill desks for everybody. Wouldn't that be great? But you can do something about it. Why not just set your alarm, every hour and take a little bit of time? I think I can speak for Mike saying that, you have that support at Hilltop to get up, take those breaks. You'll be more productive when you are sitting there getting your work done. How about defeating diabetes and avoiding insulin shots? If you've been diagnosed ever with pre-diabetes or maybe you have diabetes, you can make some significant impact in your reliance on those medications if you just add some exercise into your life. Decreasing your reliance on other medications like blood pressure medications or cholesterol-lowering drugs. Go surprise your doctor next year. Make that your goal to shock your doctor, start moving, exercise, eat a good diet, and just see what those readings come back at next time. And that'll be kind of fun. And then what about just lowering your stress level and enjoying your life? Your life is being lived, when we're embracing it and we're doing things and we're moving and we're interacting with life. And just sitting around is the same as actively dying. But if you're up and enjoying and experiencing, that's how we enjoy life. So that's what I'd encourage you to do. If you've got no other powerful why, just focus in on that one. That moving more is you enjoying and embracing life. Okay, exercise break, so we'll be quick because I'm running out of time. Just some quick stretches that you can do, especially if you sit at a desk. You can go ahead and just scooch to the front of your chair. This in and of itself engages your core muscles more than sitting all the way back. So again, know your chair before you do this, but you can sit on the edge of your chair for a while and that's going to engage your core muscles. And then some stretches that you can do. Just grab onto the chair with your right hand and reach up and over with your left arm. Feels good. Okay, and switch sides. Do this a few times a day. All right, now just grab onto your chair with your right hand and then gently take your left ear over toward your left shoulder and lean to the left. Do you feel some tension releasing out of your neck and your shoulder on that right side? Yeah? And then the other side. Especially if you type on a keyboard a lot or you're lifting things, we just tend to store a lot of stress in our neck and shoulders. All right. That feels good. Okay, so that's one more thing you could do in your day to add some movement to your day. All right, so the next step is to find a creative house. We're going to go through these pretty quick. How can you get it done? Well, just start walking every day. Could you do that? We could all do it because I say all walk in here. So yes, you could all do that right now, today. Are y'all gonna? Maybe make appointments with yourself. This one's really big. You are the most important in your life. The most important person. So you need to make an appointment with yourself and keep it just like you would if you had an appointment with Mike or you had an appointment with the President of the United States. You would keep that appointment. You wouldn't let other things get in the way. You are the most important, more important than Mike or the President of the United States in your own life. So keep those appointments. You are important enough to keep them. Set a specific goal and write it down. If you don't set a specific goal, if you don't write it down, you're just kind of wishful thinking. Getting it down on paper makes it real. Whoops. Keeping track. You keep a diary track your exercise minutes. I know people hate tracking. But setting a goal of, okay, I'm going to get, maybe if you've been inactive, you're just going to get 10 minutes a day. So your goal for the week is to walk 70 minutes. If you track those, you'll know if you're on track. So if you're getting toward the end of the week and you're only at 40, well, then you know on Saturday you're going to have to take a little bit longer walk to meet that goal. That has power to track things and write it down. Maybe joining a gym or rec center for you would help you. Having some place that has lots of options might be good for you. Not everybody, but for some people it does. Home fitness videos. Does anybody use any of those? Ever? If you've got a busy life, you've got kids, sometimes that's great because then you don't have the driving time to get to and from other places. Finding a workout buddy. Research shows that if you work out with somebody else or in a group setting like a class, you're more likely to stick to it. So you've got that accountability with someone else. Now, that's true unless you have a saboteur in your life. And that's not uncommon, where maybe you're in a relationship with somebody and maybe you both made unhealthy decisions, and that's when you got together, you both made unhealthy decisions, and now suddenly you want to be healthy, and they're not ready to make that decision. They may not like you changing. So you're going to have to hold firm, be patient, but still do what's best for you. So find a workout buddy that challenges you, that is the one that's going to say, no, we can't skip today. Find somebody like that. Incorporate mini workouts through the day. So like I said, some people just literally do not have a 30-minute chunk. Okay, then break it up. Break it up into 10-minute segments. You can certainly find 10 minutes chunks. Make family time active time. So instead of going out to eat or going to the movies, think of active things that you can do as a family. And instead of lunch dates, set walking dates. I do this, and it's probably why I don't have very many friends. But I tell you, we brainstorm solutions to our problems so much better with our walking dates than we do with lunch dates. Not that I don't ever do lunch dates, but it's a great way to get it in. Any other ways that you found that you can sneak it in? You guys have better ideas than me, I'm sure. Okay. I really came up with everything. I am really smart. I had no idea. You guys are awesome. All right, so start with 30 minutes. Maybe you're going to work up to it, but make that a goal. That's not too much. Your heart's not asking for too much, I don't think. I think we owe that hard-working heart and ourselves that